All right. I am super excited to have Miranda on the Nurses on Fire podcast. Miranda has an extraordinary story and an unconventional path to financial independence. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Let's first just start by talking about how you got into nursing.
I always wanted to go into healthcare. I thought maybe I would be a dentist. I don't know. For some reason, I was interested in the dental field, but then I decided I didn't want to just look at teeth all day. And nursing was more broad. There were so many opportunities. And it just hit me one day that I wanted to be a nurse. So I went to school, got my bachelor's degree in nursing. I worked a couple of years in a hospital, first as a nurse tech, and then as a registered nurse on a hemonc floor, oncology and med-surg. And then I ended up going to graduate school to get a master's degree in public health. I knew I wanted to go to graduate school, but I was not really interested in being a nurse practitioner. I didn't really want to go the clinical route. I wanted to do more research, education, prevention of disease. So that's how I ended up in the Masters of Public Health program.
Cool. Public health and healthcare administration, I think we kind of are aligned a little bit. Sometimes people look at those degrees as interchangeable. So we're similar.
Yeah.
We're similar. So that's cool. So right now, what are you doing in nursing?
So I work in hospital infection prevention and control. So when I was in graduate school, I did an internship in between my first and second year of graduate school in what they used to call infection control. Now they call it infection prevention because we're technically trying to prevent hospital-acquired infections. So I took an unpaid internship in between my two graduate school years. That led to a full-time job offer before I had even graduated with my master's degree. So I worked about 5 years at a university-based medical center in the infection control department. And then I moved to a for-profit hospital and worked in the infection control department there. And then what the primary piece of infection control that I was doing was surveillance, what we call surveillance for healthcare acquired infections. So I was doing a lot of medical record review, a lot of data analysis, and I ended up finding a job where I could do that remotely from home, which I love.
Nice.
So,
You know what? Can I just tell you, you know how we've been going back and forth about Joint Commission and all this kind of stuff?
yeah.
It's been infection control that's been the bane of my existence right now. So what they're doing, they're telling us that we can't make our delivery carts in advance. And just over the weekend, I've had 3 precipitous deliveries where I'm holding a baby in the mom's perineum with bare hands because the baby is flying out and we don't have any table ready because infection control told us that we couldn't make tables. So thank you so much, Miranda, for all you do.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, we're not always everyone's favorite in the hospital, I guess, but we really do try to help as much as we can. So it's all about patient safety, and we're just trying to protect the patients. So.
Right. I get it. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. But I love that you can do your job remotely. So what has that meant for you and your finances?
So it's been really good because we've not had to do a lot of pay for a lot of childcare. So I've had a flexible schedule where my daughter was home when she was younger, and then when we have had some grandparents helping out along the way. So it's not just us, but when she did start preschool, she started 3 mornings a week instead of 5 full days a week. So that was very beneficial financially to be able to do that.
So let's dive into more of the FI aspects of your life. And how did you discover financial independence?
So that's totally through my husband. He found, we both have always been good with money, so we never really had debt. But he found that through Dave Ramsey, we, got on the Dave Ramsey train, and then it was
Yeah.
like, okay, what next? And so he found the Choose FI podcast and started listening to lots of different podcasts and telling me all about, financial independence. We went to Camp FI together last year, which
Yeah.
is, and then we went again this year. And so that's really how I found out about it, is through him.
So let's talk a little bit about Camp FI, because we met at Camp FI
Yeah. Good.
earlier this year, at the very beginning of this year. And that was my very first Camp FI, but you guys have gone to quite a few. Let's talk about like why you guys wanted to go to Camp FI, and then just what Camp FI is for people that don't know.
So Camp FI is basically like a grown-up camp for people who are interested in finances and talking about money. So Kevin and I have gone the last 2 years, and the one we go to is in January, which we really like that it's at the beginning of the year, because it's a good time to, set our goals together, to plan, talk about what we want to do for that year, what we want to accomplish. We have a blast. We learn a lot. We meet a lot of interesting people and hear interesting stories. And it's just great to be around, like-minded people who you connect with.
Right. It's often that we're the only ones in the room interested interested in talking about money, but in Camp FI, it's a whole bunch of money nerds in one place. And guys, don't worry, it's not really like camping, because Black people don't camp. That's what I say. But it's it's more like glamping. It's
It is.
nice. And I
It
highly
is.
recommend it. You get to interact on a level with people in the personal finance space that you might read their blogs or interact with them on social media some kind of way. But there are a lot of people that come to speak. But it's not really just about the speakers that are there. It's really about everybody who's there. Everybody has something to share. There's a lot of crowdsourcing of information. And so it's an amazing resource for people who just want to learn to do better about your money. Like, I was even intimidated, had a little bit of imposter syndrome about going there, because I'm like, I'm not super FI, but I was welcomed with warm open arms, and everybody was so cool. And I think what the best thing about it was that we were able to learn from each other, and I feel like it creates this community of people all across the country and even across the world, that are on the same path as you. And so it's super fun, and it's just an awesome way to connect with people in that are interested in doing the same thing with their money. So so you guys are truly on the path to FI, but what are some levers that you guys have pulled in order to get closer to being financially independent?
So one thing we did for the first 4 years of our marriage, we basically lived off one income. And that was pretty much out of necessity then,
Mm-hmm.
because we got married right after I started grad school. So I wasn't working very much. I was doing home health, which I liked because it was flexible and I could just
Mm-hmm.
do a few visits here and there, but I wasn't making a ton of money doing it. So we lived off of Kevin's salary. And then when I graduated grad school, I got a job and he started training for his career. And 2 or 3 years after that, started his own business. So we were living off my income at that time. But we've always since then kind of tried to be in a position where we could just live off of one income if we needed to or had to. And I did go part-time after we had our children. So I wasn't making as much money, but it was okay because we had his income to live off of. So that's one thing we've done. As you talked about earlier, we lived in our camper while we were building our house, which is kind of crazy. We bought a piece of property and owned it for a year and a half to 2 years and paid it off, and then decided we wanted to build a house on it. So we put our house we were living in up for sale, just for sale by owner on Zillow, just to see if we could get an offer. And within a week, we had a full price offer, had a contract on the house, And within, 30 or 45 days after that, we were moving out. And so
Wow.
it kind of started as a joke that we could live in the camper while the house was being built, but then we just said, why not? And so we ended up being in the camper for 8 months with 2 kids, 2 dogs, and 2 people working from home. So it
What?
was it was quite an experience, but we saved a lot of money. We put a lot of money into the house we were building, so we cash flowed a lot of money into the house, and it was an experience we'll never forget.
So that's cool. So what made you guys decide to buy the land in the first place?
We had talked about moving into a slightly larger house. The house we were in, we ended up living there for 12 years. So it was, our first home, 4 kids. And my husband had always wanted to build a house. He just loves real estate and wanted to design and build a house. So we stumbled upon this piece of property, and it's really beautiful. We have almost 5 acres, and it was
Wow.
a pretty good deal. So we bought it, and then just kind of paid it off and hung on to it for a little bit until it was time to potentially build a house, and then that's what happened. So
What's the cost of building a house versus just buying a house in you're in Gainesville, right?
yes,
Florida. Hmm.
we're in Gainesville, Florida. So we looked at houses in our price range, and everything that we looked at, we would have probably had to have made updates, modifications to for our liking. And so for us, it was very similar price, and we ended up getting exactly what we wanted.
A brand new
So
house built by design.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love it. I
and
love
we're
it.
very happy with the way it turned out.
And how big is your house?
We're about 2,800 square feet. We have 4 bedrooms and an office. We have a room above the garage that we don't have finished off, but we could finish off one day if our son maybe ends up going to college here in Gainesville and wants to live upstairs.
Or house hack. Hey.
Or house hack. We've discussed that too. We've discussed, with land that we could put some tiny homes on our
Hmm.
property too. So we'll see.
So much income opportunity there. So did you like pay off the house with the sale of your other house, or do you still have a mortgage on this home?
We do still have a mortgage on the house, but our house payment is very similar to what our old house payment was. And we got, over 1,000 square feet more in a newer home. So, yeah.
That's cool. So where are you guys on the path to FI right now?
So right now, our next step is looking at real estate to help us get there. So we actually just in the last week put an offer on a piece of property that was accepted. So we have a
Nice.
contract on the house, and it's a triplex. And currently, 1 unit is long-term rental, and 2 units are being Airbnb'd. So right now we are learning everything we can about Airbnb and how to Airbnb. So we're pretty excited about that. We've wanted to get into real estate for a little while now, just because we think, everybody we talk to, like at Camp Fi and everything that has real estate, they say that really speeds it up, the
Yeah.
process. So we're pretty excited about that.
Is that in Gainesville as well, or is that in another area?
It's in Gainesville.
Nice.
We were really looking for something locally to start with. I know there are lots of people who have rental properties outside of their area, but we did find a nice property in our area, at least, for our first one. So
Yeah, I'm excited for that. So you guys aren't too far off. And I love some of the things that you shared, like living off of one income and just you guys and living in your trailer for that amount of
I,
time.
I've had some interesting nursing side hustles too, I'll say.
Yeah.
Um, so like anywhere from giving flu shots at Walmart. I did that like when I first started. I taught at the community college, so I taught a couple of semesters at our community college. I've done some research at the university, and then I was asked to write questions for a certification study guide. So I have a certification in infection control, and a colleague of mine referred me to write questions. So I think I ended up writing 100 questions for the study guide, and I made like, I don't know, $1,000 or something like that, just to
Nice.
questions for the study guide, and my name's published in the study guide. So yeah, a lot of creative ways to make money in nursing.
And how did you come about those opportunities?
So a lot of it was just who I know, who I've worked with. Infection control is kind of a small group of people. There's not like a ton of people that do it. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I think people know that I'm dependable, and that I hopefully think that I do good work because they've referred me to do, these side hustles, these jobs. So
I think that that's cool. And I love that you have a specialty, because there's a lot of nurses that have specialties. And I think you have a gift of being able to maximize that and optimize that and use it to your advantage. And I love that you were able to write those study questions. And it probably didn't take that much effort to make a quick $1,000. And people are always asking for are looking for ways to make extra income. And I just love the way you're able to just get all these side hustles, and a lot of it was just around relationship building. What advice do you have for nurses who are aspiring to financial freedom but just don't know how to get started?
So one thing I would say is, once you do get that nursing salary, don't inflate your lifestyle because of it. So, pretend like you're still in school, and maybe you're not making a whole lot of money, and try to live below your means if you can. So that way you're not spending too much money. I took an unpaid internship, and it resulted in a full-time job. So whenever I've worked with students, I've always said, don't be afraid to do something maybe that's not going to get you a lot of money, but it might get you connections. So, do that for sure.
I concur. When I was before I went to nursing school, I was in healthcare administration. And, I was pretty high up in administration, but I didn't like it. And so I knew I wanted to go to nursing school. And in between that job and applying to nursing school, like taking my prereqs and stuff, I took a job just as a secretary in a nursing administration office. It was very low paid. I hadn't gotten paid that little since I was in high school. But the opportunity that it granted me was priceless, because when I graduated from nursing school, it was 2009, and there were no jobs. It was right at the bottom of the recession, and everybody was scrambling, and they were not hiring new grads. And out of my class of 83, only 3 people had jobs when we
Wow.
graduated. And that was and I was one of them, only because I just got a little bit uncomfortable for a little while. But sometimes we have to do that in order to get to where we want. And so I love that you share like just about that internship and what that afforded you, because people aren't really willing sometimes to make those short-term sacrifices because they can't see the end in mind. And just there's a lot of opportunity, especially in the world of nursing. And what I found over and over and over again is that it's all about those relationships that you build, when you're just starting in your career and when you're going through your career. So make sure you don't burn bridges, because the world of nursing is small. Believe me, I know nurses all across the country. And, yeah, especially if you're in specialties like I'm sure infection control is super duper small. Labor and delivery might be a little bit bigger, but I guarantee you, I know a nurse that or I can get in contact with one of your coworkers really, really quickly. So, it's all about just building relationships and fostering relationships, because you never know what can come out of them, but just always coming from a place of service and helping people. And I heard this saying that once you come from a place of service and you serve just people, a number of people, then you can't help but get served in return. So I always just like the golden rule, right? That's how I look at things. So Miranda, is there anything else you want to share with the Nurses on Fire community?
I would say just, get your experience. If you can get a certification, so you can put yourself above the rest of the crowd. That way too, you can potentially make more money. Like, I switched hospitals, and when I switched, at that point, I was like more experienced, I was certified, and I felt like I could ask for more money at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, do those things to build up your resume, and then that'll help build up your salary too.
And then one last question, not to put you on the spot, but why do you think it's important for nurses to pursue financial independence?
I think it's important because people probably won't work in nursing as a long-term career. I mean, let's face it, a lot of nurses get burnt out, right? So if one thing financial independence gives you is options. So if you decide, I don't want to work in nursing, or I don't want to work full-time in nursing, or I want to change careers, if you're financially independent, you could possibly do that. Whereas if you're not, you might be stuck in a job that you're not satisfied with. So that's one thing I would say is, it gives you options to do something different, or maybe not do it at all if you don't want to in the future. So.
Exactly. It's all about options. And I appreciate you so much, Miranda, for sharing your story and talking about the unconventional path to nurse, of being a nurse, and how that's led you on your path to FI. I appreciate you for joining us on the podcast. Tell Kevin I said, what's up? That's her husband. Oh, he has the best eyelashes, by the way.
Have beautiful eyelashes, and our children inherited his eyelashes.
That is so cool. I had to ask him if he wore mascara. Like, that's how nice they are. But anyway, side note, Miranda, it was so nice chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
All right.